right. Hello, everybody. We're here for another interview, actually, with a person who's going to shed some light on what he calls proactive clarity. He has got a background in psychology, industrial psychology, and he spent most of his life and continues in this field to help individuals and organizations build strong cultures, both in the sports field, the business field, and education. One of the things that he and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago was these two words put together, proactive clarity. And his name is Andy Grant. He is here in Lincoln, Nebraska. He's working for a company called Leadership Resources. And Andy, that was an interesting combo. You know, I've heard being proactive, I've heard being reactive, but proactive clarity kind of piqued my interest because right now, with everything that business leaders are going through, we don't necessarily know what tomorrow is going to be like, let alone today. It's getting a little bit better, but it could always change. We've learned that we're a little skittish. And yet we need to somewhat find clarity so that we can lead our troops. And when I think of being proactive, it's like the anticipation of tomorrow. It's anticipating those future problems. And, you know, I come from the world of strategy where you set the strategy and you follow it and you go after it. And that doesn't necessarily work right now. So I kind of want to tap into a little bit of your psychology brain, a little bit of your being able to get people in alignment and organized and execute, get it done. Tell me about this proactive clarity and give me context around it.
Yeah. So Kathy, thanks for having me. And what I would say is, as we got into talking about proactive clarity, it just really hit me as we spent time with some of our partners through everything that's going on. And in sessions where we were really keeping them aligned in traction, the EOS model, that they were coming in and really feeling like they needed that time. And we found that people weren't pushing off their sessions with us. It was, how can we do this? Can we do it virtually? We need this time. And as we worked through things with them and listened to what was going on with them, it became an understanding that they didn't really want to change their objectives, their targets. They wanted to stay after those, but maybe there was going to be a small change in how they went about that. And so as you talked about laying the strategy, following the strategy, there's so much discipline to that. And what I've started to realize as we've worked with our partners is there can be discipline to being undisciplined. And that's really the proactive clarity part. It's being comfortable in the uncomfortable, right? And we can talk about that, and it's kind of a corny saying at times, but being willing to adapt within your strategy and planning to adapt can be part of your strategy. And so understanding that and understanding, okay, we might not have the answers right now, but we know we're going to hit an area where there's maybe a little uncertainty. There's maybe something going on that we don't have all of the information on just yet, but we can be as proactive as we can be up to that point. And once we have the information come in, we're ready to go. And you make that part of your strategy. That's being more proactive and providing proactive clarity. It's, hey, we don't have all the answers. It's okay right now if we don't. We have all this information. We're ready for that next step when the necessary information comes in.
Yeah, so you talk about the discipline, and that is true. I mean, I obviously am working with CEOs and leaders of organizations that are trying to become smarter, better leaders, make the better decisions, get better results. And we will talk about the shiny object syndrome, you know, that something comes into their world and they start looking this way. And it is that discipline of them meeting monthly with their peers at a Vistage board and monthly with me as well. I know that in the world of accountability systems, and that's what I would call traction, there is a couple acronyms that you guys use. One, I think, it's either I.D.S. or I.S.D.
I.D.S. Yes.
Yeah, so explain that, because I'm a fan of that system, because it does provide the discipline. And I like how you say, you know, we can this proactive clarity by being able to say, hey, we don't know what we don't know, and we are going to be disciplined to find out what we don't know. Well, what does it stand for, the I.D.S.?
Yeah, so I.D.S. is It is IDS. IDS is identify, discuss, and solve. And it sounds pretty simple. And that's kind of the goal of EOS is to keep things simple. And it's part of your cadence as you get into your meeting pulse. And I think that's one of the best disciplines that EOS can provide right now to help with proactive clarity is the regular occurrence of meetings and how disciplined we stay to that agenda as you go through those weekly with your leadership team. And so when you get into the IDS area of that meeting, it's the majority of your time is to identify what are your issues, discuss those, and solve. And the way it works, Kathy, is beautiful because it really helps you prioritize what's going on within that week. So you can talk about all the changes happening with the forgiveness loans and all the financial stuff going on. And every week you're able to talk, okay, let's say what's number one, what's number two, and what's number three in terms of the priorities that we need to address right now. And then you're able to talk about who owns this issue and who can talk to this issue, how much time do we need on it, and you discuss. Now you don't politic, you don't get to come back and talk and talk and talk. The discussion piece is really proactive and done in an efficient manner, and then you move to solve it. And it might not mean that you have the answer just yet, but you know actions to take to solve that. And it helps get us out of that kind of continuous, well, let's discuss this. Okay, we talked about it for an hour. We didn't get there. Let's set up another meeting and let's discuss this again tomorrow. And you'll start getting yourself in trouble if you're just discussing and spending too much time thinking about those issues. And the IDS process really allows you to get all the information out you need at that moment and move forward to solve, and then move on to the next most important. And if you solve all three of those, hey, what's the next three most important issues we need to be focused on right now? Let's IDS those.
So you end up sometimes in chaotic situations like this where you might have 25. So if I'm hearing you right, you're going to IDS those and find out what are the most important that impact where we're going, or just most important for today.
Yeah, impacting where you're going. Impacting where you're going.
Okay.
And it's going to be a team effort with the leadership team to identify those most important. But the idea is if everything's important, nothing's important. So of course, everything on your list is going to feel important, but we really need to identify those most important issues that need addressed. And you can be, you know, kind of talking about some of those other things, but it's really about what needs solved today. What needs solved for us to move forward this week. And when we're in the quarterly sessions or the more, you know, full day sessions with our partners, and we're there to help coach them through, and we're IDSing in those, what we're talking about things for the next quarter, the next 90 days in terms of what our priorities. So it's really just about getting in that cadence of identifying what needs to happen and how do we stay proactive so we're not just being reactive.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I like the idea of meeting continuously. And I also hear many times, oh, you know, EOS. And for those of you who might not be familiar with the acronym, it is the Entrepreneurial Operating System by Traction, and Gino Wickman was the author of it. I often hear that the meetings are so rigid, and yet it is that exact rigid discipline, and I would call it more discipline and investment of time to look on it as to what's changing and get alignment, than to think of it as, oh, it's just a rigid thing. And maybe, you know, that's the blessing of the pandemic. We had to get focused. We could not waste too much time, resources, or energy on anything else. And so without the cadence of the continuous meeting where it just becomes the habit, I could see where people get in trouble. I mean, we say the same thing with Vistage, right? You got to get into the meeting, the board meeting with your peers. We're a little bit different because those are C-levels that are working with a brain trust to get smarter, to make the better decisions, to glean the knowledge and the insights, because they don't waste the time and the effort going in a direction that they don't, and then they come back and take it to their team. And that's why we work so well together. But yeah, that discipline is really key right now for that clarity. I get that.
It is. Yeah, just being able to, again, get out of your business and work on it, right? And everybody's kind of got their heads down, and so many people that I've talked to where we've been able just to get them out for that session. And at the end of the day, it's just felt like a breath. And it's a full day, but it's a full day of thinking about your priorities and what's happening, and really thinking about how are we supporting everybody in the organization. You know, one of the great things about EOS is it provides tools for everyone in your organization and keeps everybody sharing that strong vision that you have, so that clarity can be felt from the top to the bottom. And again, just taking that time to step out, even in chaos, and say, okay, let's really get a higher level picture and how are we moving through this. Our partners have been just so thankful that we've helped them take that time away from just keeping their head down and trying to stay, you know, on that path, to just take the breath, take a breath. Let's think about things. Let's be proactive, and let's get clarity about where we're going in the next 90 days.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing in Vistage. I mean, we're growing our 11th board here in just this Omaha region, and people would be like, "Whoa, why?" And it's because it's the ability to say, more than ever, I need to get clear. And if I'm going to get clear, I don't want to do it alone, and I'd rather do it with a group of peers. It's great then, because we always say, "And what is your operating system?" Because you could be clear, but if the rest of your people do not get on the same page with you, which is what you guys do, get everybody in alignment, get that cadence of discipline running through the veins of the organization. You know, if you don't have it, you're kind of wasting time and energy, and we don't have the time to do that now.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there are a lot of practitioners of EOS out there. I was really kind of attracted to your speak on it just because of your insights coming from the psychological framework and the industrial psychology, and being able to not just do it for the sake of doing it because that's the program that does it. I mean, I firmly believe, Andy, after kind of knowing you and sitting with you, you wouldn't be doing this if it actually wasn't a part of the psychological behavior to get back in and out of fear and moving.
Yeah. It's, Kathy, it's really just about helping people, and still striving to get them to where they feel good. And it's okay, right? And most of our best days come after some of our hardest days, and helping people through that. And there's a psychological aspect to EOS in terms of how it primes the mind and gets you thinking about your business, which is really insightful and really helpful. But it is really just helping people understand it's okay. It's okay if you don't have the answers right now. You know, one of my favorite people that I've spent time with over the past 10 plus years was Sue Inquist, who was UCLA's women's softball coach for years. And she won 11 national championships there. And one thing she always talks about is you're not 100% of your best every single day. You know, life's going to happen. There might be something that comes up. And it's just interesting right now that we're all experiencing the pandemic together, but everybody has something going on every day, and it's just perspective. There's, you know, relationship things, there's things going on in your family. You might not feel the best on a day, and it's really understanding what she refers to as what percent of 100 do you have? Are you 75% of your best today? Are you 80% of your best? And it's really about, okay, if you have 80% of your best today, you better give 100% of that 80. And when she taught that to me the first time, it was just like, okay, yeah, it's about centering yourself. And, you know, EOS helps you do that for your business. And that's to me, the proactive clarity. We might not be at our best right now. We might have, you know, people that need furloughed right now, or we might have people that can't get into the office. How are we taking what we have and still being the very best we can every single day, and planning proactively for when this comes out? Because if we're just waiting for things to get back to normal, we know that's not going to happen. We've got to be ready and help our partners be ready to say, okay, there's a new world, and we need to have a strong vision moving forward. And that vision, to me, is really what proactive clarity is all about.
Yeah, really good insights. I will make sure that I've got your contact information at the end of this video. And for those of you who don't know, Leadership Resources works in the area of not only helping organizations set strategy, put in accountability systems like EOS, They also work on coaching and emerging the leaders within those individuals that work for you. And they also have some fantastic software called Accelerate, which just makes it also easy. Keep doing what you're doing. And next time you pique my interest again on words that I've never seen combined before, I'm going to have to do this again. Thanks for bringing
Looking
it
forward
down
to
to
it.
sixth grade language for me.
Thanks,
All right.
Kathy.
Thanks, Andy.